Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to go over how to add a property within Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Before we get started, I want to point out that this step can take some time. So make sure to set aside about 20 minutes to finish it all in one sitting. You are unable to pause and save your work in the middle of this step and will have to start over if you can't finish. To begin, go to the ESPM login page, which can be found at portfoliomanager.energystar.gov/pm/login. Once you're here, you'll want to sign into your account. If you have not yet created an account, you'll want to watch my video titled How to Create an Account in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Once you log into this page, select Add a Property. The next page is going to ask you to select your property type. Follow these instructions for entering your building's property type. Go to the Property Type drop-down menu and select the type that best describes your building. If there is more than one property type in the building, select the largest property use type at the building. You will add additional property use types later on. Select 1. My property is a single building. Select Existing. Once this page is filled out, select Get Started. The next page will then ask for some basic information about your property, such as the property name, address, year built, gross floor area, and occupancy. As you can see, a number of fields are highlighted in blue. If you're unsure of what the field is specifically asking for, hover over the blue text and a more detailed definition will pop up explaining what the field is seeking. When you're entering the building's gross floor area, make sure this is the square footage for the entire building. Do not include any parking square footage for this value. Additionally, I suggest visiting What Should I Include in My GFA for additional details on what to include and exclude in your building's gross floor area. Skip over Irrigated Area. As you can see on the left side of this slide, this link provides an informative list of the areas to both include and exclude from the building's gross floor area. When determining the occupancy of your building, look at the percentage of your building's gross floor area that was occupied and/or operational during the previous year, which is the year you'll be submitting your next benchmarking report for. Occupancy in this sense is not a value of the number of people or employees in the building. It is a matter of how the building is used. For example, let's say you have a 10-story office building where all 10 floors are typically occupied, yet this reporting year only 9 of the floors were occupied. The percentage occupancy would be 90%, assuming each floor is the same size. This value can be updated at any time and should be when the occupancy changes in the building from year to year. The next section is the standard IDs. Here, use the drop-down menu to select Minnesota Building ID from the Standard ID state/province. Then enter your unique building ID. This ID can be found on most of the physical mailers and/or emails you have received about this requirement. When adding your ID, ensure there are no spaces, no extra characters, and capitalize the letters MN. If you're unsure of your ID or cannot locate it, you can skip this step for now and come back to it later. Watch my video titled How to Attach Your State of Minnesota Building ID for further instructions on how to find and attach your building ID. Lastly, read through the statements on the right and mark any that apply to your building. For parking, you'll want to consider how the parking for the property is metered. If your parking lot energy, such as lights, EV chargers, etc., is metered with the building's meters, then you need to select My Property's Energy Consumption Includes Parking Areas. This will prompt you later to specify more details about your parking use. If your parking lot energy is metered separately from your building's meters, then you won't make this selection and you will not include a parking use type in ESPM. Visit our FAQs on the Minnesota Large Building Energy Benchmarking Program website to learn more about how to benchmark parking areas. Once this page is filled out, select Continue. The next page is going to ask you some questions about how your property is used. As an example, I've selected an office building, but each property type has a unique set of fields, so do not be surprised if your fields look a bit different. Again, if you're unsure of what a specific field is asking for, just hover over the blue text to get a more detailed explanation. If you'd like more information about the field, select the text and you'll be taken to the ESPM glossary. When trying to determine the weekly operating hours of your building, think about the total number of hours during the week that the majority of workers are present. This is not the same thing as total operating hours. For example, if your building is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but the majority of workers are only in the building from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, your weekly operating hours should be 40, while your total operating hours would be 60. Next, you will need to determine the number of workers on the main shift. Similar to the weekly operating hours, this is not the same thing as total number of workers in the building. This is only asking for the worker count present during the main shift. Thinking about the previous example, if you have 10 workers, but only 8 of them work during that main shift from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, your number of workers on the main shift is 8, not 10. The rest of the fields here are pretty self-explanatory, so I will jump down to the parking use section. This section is just asking for the square footage details of the building's parking areas, whether the parking area is open, partially enclosed, or fully enclosed, and if there's any supplemental heating for the parking space. All of these fields are required to be filled out. If you originally selected that your property's energy consumption includes parking areas when you were adding your property to ESPM, but you later realize that the parking is separately metered from your building, you can go ahead and enter either zeros for all parking information or delete at the parking use type entirely. Lastly, I want to point out that this current as of column is automatically defaulted to January 1st of the year the building was built. Do not change that date. It is helpful to keep that date as far back as possible to avoid any confusion in the ESPM system. Once all this information has been filled out, select Add Property at the bottom of the page. At this point, you've successfully added a property to your ESPM account. This information will be saved in your account, but you can always correct mistakes on any property listed in your dashboard. If you have multiple property use types, add them to your property use and details section. If you do not have more than one property use type, skip this step. Select the Details tab on your property's building page. To add a use type, select a use type from the Add Another Type of Use drop-down box. Select your additional property use type and select Add. Fill out the property use details as shown in previous steps. Refer to the previous slide for more details about use type. Select Save Use. Whenever you need to make updates to property use type details, find the drop-down menu under Action in your Details tab for the specific use type that says I want to ... then select Edit Use Details. Here you can make any updates, then select Save, and you're all set. Using the Add a New Row is a bit more involved and typically increases the risk of making further mistakes that will create errors in your report submission. That's all I have for this topic, but check out my next video for how to add a meter and input utility